Hey everyone, this is PrinceWatercress, and welcome back to Let's Play Last Battle. We are now on Chapter 3. We got guys with guns, both shotguns and harpoon guns. Definitely want to take those guys out with some kick attacks, especially a crouching kick. Those will work really well against those guys. And here in Chapter 3, the enemies do get a little bit tougher. And a little nastier too. And the name of the game in Chapter 3 is Survival. To beat this pirate guy, just get right in front of him and just keep mashing the punch button like mad. That's all you gotta do. That's how I managed to luck out and manage to stay at full health. And for that, we managed to get off this ship and we can finally get on to the overworld map. I'm going to go into that smaller ship first. Thankfully, this isn't a very large area. There's just a couple of enemies here, and that's pretty much it. Just be ready to duck or jump the projectiles in case, you come across a guy with a harpoon gun, because the guys with the harpoon guns, they can duck before they fire at you. Also, sometimes you'll have like one guy behind you and one guy in front of you when one guy drops in front of you with a gun. That other guy behind you will be there too, but you can quickly off-screen him if you're fast enough. We're now going to go over to this ruins-like area because there's nowhere else to go. And oh boy, you got a lot of these enemies that wait a couple seconds before they come after you. And then you got those guys with the gold staffs. You want to use a crouching kick on those guys. And you also have these hawks that swoop down on you. When they swoop down, kick them. You want to stand still when they show up, because that will put you in the best position to face them and then kick them accordingly. Not gonna lie, Chapter 3 took me quite a bit of practice to do, just to get down as well as I wanted it. Because, again, at this point in the game, it does get a little tougher. Alright, now that we've taken care of that hawk, we can finally go straight to the south here. And we got even more ruins. Great. Everything looks like World War III around here. Also, even the guy with the projectiles get harder. You definitely want to kick projectiles at all times from this point forward. That way you can take them all down. Especially if you're not in your bulked up form. If you're in your bulked up form, you want to crouch and punch everything that's thrown at you by these guys. Whatever you do, just mind what you're doing. Try not to take a lot of damage, because there are very few instances in this chapter where you're not going to be able to heal. You're not going to be able to heal a whole lot of the time here. Also, now that we're in our bulked up form, being able to do the jump kick that we have is even more important. And when you reach the end of this area, you'll meet Duke, who has turned over a new leaf and has decided to join you in the fight. Sadly, he could not save Alyssa. Nevertheless, our thanks to him for his efforts, and our maximum hit points increases once again. Now we can go to the left or we can go to the right. I'm going to go to the left in order to take on all the areas. This place gives us a new enemy that is definitely different from anyone we've fought before. These guys that just jump up and down, they slowly move towards you. If you're in your bulked up form, these guys can be easily taken care of with a jump kick. They may move out of the way for it, but if you pay attention and figure out where they teleport to after a few seconds, you'll be able to take them down relatively easy. They stop when you attack, and if you can time it right, you can punch or kick them right when they come at you. I prefer the jump kick in the bulked up form better, because that has a much higher success rate than just waiting for him, because even then, he's still probably going to hit you, teleport, and then reappear again. And trust me, dealing with these guys is not a joke. They are probably going to be the most difficult regular enemies you're probably going to meet this far in the game. And I'm not even going to fight that guy, forget it. Now, that place at the bottom, to the top, to the southeast, that's what I'm meaning to say, is where we're eventually going to go. But I do want to get a little bit stronger and get a defensive power-up at the end of this area. Again, we're going to meet up with even more of those guys with the giddy little hop that just come at you, push you, and then sometimes teleport out of the way. But once you get used to fighting these guys, the game isn't that bad. Taking them on gets a little bit easier. It's still a bit difficult, but practice means a lot with this game. And that's what I meant with ducking down and punching in the bulked up form to get rid of the projectiles. You can take care of one, but another one still might hit you. And that guy pushed me all the way to the end, therefore he disappeared. And of course we get the defensive power increase as we try to make our way to our brother Grom, who has apparently been brainwashed and made to do evil things, I'm guessing. And this part, this is what I was talking about. You want to make sure you have enough life to do this. You want to stop near the bridge, and then duck down and keep on kicking. If he hits you, try to hit him with a jump kick or another crouching kick. Make sure to do a lot of damage to him before you get real wild with them. And this guy can also produce a clone of himself. The clone does not have that blue piece of fabric hanging off his arm like the real one does. And that fake one can also hurt you too, so you definitely want to be careful. And this is where the fight got rather nasty. This is one of those boss fights where you really have to feel like you're going to get lucky. I thought I was going to die here, but I managed to punch him twice very, very easily and get just the bare minimum of life back. I could have died at that point, but I didn't. I had a game plan going in of doing a whole bunch of crouching kicks and then punching him whenever necessary, but I was really pushing it right there, and it showed. Anyway, we're now in another town area, and once again, all those difficult enemies that I mentioned recently, well, they have a different color scheme, but they're still the same enemies. But they're still here, and we have to deal with them as appropriately as we can. And I hate those knives. If you're not in your bulked up form, you can easily kick them away, but because the kick is different in the bulked up form, you kind of have to jump over them as opposed to actually kicking them out of the way, because the kick acts a little differently, and because of it, there's a slight chance that you may not connect. And by slight, I mean good. There's also a lot of bird enemies here. And with the amount of health that I have through this area, I was questioning whether or not I was going to be able to get through this part. But once you make it to the final area of Chapter 3, again, I'm not going to fight that guy because forget it, you're pretty much home free. There are quite a few doorways in this labyrinth where you can go in, punch out a bunch of guys, and then leave, go to another doorway, enter it, punch out a bunch of bad guys, and as you punch out these bad guys, just like in chapters 1 and 2, when you're in the labyrinth, you'll be able to refill your health. And once again, the infinite amount of time that you have here is definitely something to take advantage of. Because I got a little bit of a trick here that I can show you guys that you can finally do once you reach Chapter 3. You may have had to take advantage of it in Chapters 1 and 2, but here you'll really be taking advantage of it. And I'll mention it when we get there. For now, we just gotta avoid a whole bunch of arrows and knives, and these arrows are now coming in fast. Thankfully, the amount of damage we take, or risk taking, is kind of nullified by the trick that I'm going to show off. And of course you have the usual traps, the boulders, the axes, the arrows, the tiny boulders that can be incredibly cheap, the fire traps, both the floor and the wall versions. And here's where the trick happens. I'm going to be beating up these guys as usual. I've gotten quite a lot of my health back. Now, after I take care of these axes that fly across the screen, there's a stack of boxes. Obviously it's going to lead to someplace, so I'm going to go jump up and left. But then I decide to come back down and go back into the door. Why would I do that? Well, I found this out on accident. By going down a floor that you've already been to, you reset all of the rooms that had the enemies in them. Normally, these areas, you can only enter them once, but if you go up or down a floor and then come back to that floor and go back to where you fought enemies and try to re-enter, you will be able to re-enter. This allows you to get your life all the way back to maximum, which you will desperately need at the end, because there is a boss here. Yes, there is a boss. Spoiler alert. Anyway, we now have to take care of some ceiling spikes, and by take care of them, I mean stay away from them until they go back up. And from here, I should have went to the left here. Instead, I go to the right and I go to a dead end. There is an enemy room that you can take advantage of at the dead end. So, it's not like this going in the wrong direction deal is a total loss. But since we're going in the wrong direction, and I didn't know that when I was unintentionally losing my way when I recorded this chapter, I might as well go ahead and mention how I feel about the game so far. The game gets a little bit of flack just for how everything is, how hard it is to hit enemies and whatnot. But it's really not that bad a game when you know what you're doing. It's frustrating, but it's not frustrating. There may be some terrible boss deaths that I wish that I could avoid. You definitely need to get some practice up on the bosses in order to beat them. This definitely takes some time to get to learn how to play through, but once you learn how to play through it, it can actually be quite rewarding. And it proved for an interesting slice of what it was like to have a Genesis in America in 1989, before there was a Alex Kidd game for it, before there was even the first Sonic game in America. That wouldn't be until November 1991. But you do learn to appreciate the game a little more, I think. At least I did. Sure, there may be the inability to hit enemies sometimes, but the game isn't absolutely terrible. And this is that dead end that I was talking about that you could easily take advantage of. You just have to watch out for the arrows and you should be okay. At this point the arrows come in rather fast, so gotta be careful here. Anyway, as I make my way back, I'm kind of enjoying the game so far. There are some frustrating parts, some of them being bosses, obviously. But once you learn how to play through the game and it becomes a little bit easier, and it becomes a little bit more enjoyable. It's not the best game in the world, but it's something. And I went the wrong way again. Excellent. Which means I gotta go all the way to the right and then drop down. At least there's a map screen. I kinda like the map screen. I kinda like the music for the map screen. And you don't get to hear it for very long. At least not in this video. But it does sound really nice for very early Sega Genesis standards. I do like some of the music in general here too. Especially the Labyrinth music, which I did get used to after a while. It's not the most annoying thing in the world, thankfully. Hey, at least it's not Fatal Labyrinth dungeon music, am I right? Especially near the beginning. And here we are, we're on the right road now. Can't go up into that area, but if you're seeing spikes come out of the floor, those little force spears, you're on the right track. Now, that first one I couldn't go into, but the second one I could, which is excellent. Let's refill some of that health we lost, shall we? And not far from this door is a box, or a set of boxes rather, leading up here. And I'm thinking of another area. I'm thinking of the very top floor entirely. I thought I was already at the top. Well, at least we got some ceiling spikes that are easy to dodge there. And we want to leap to the left because that is a wall. At this point, all of the rocks are going to bounce. You're better off just jumping over every single one of them. And in here is another door where we can fight some enemies. But this is the part I was thinking of. As a matter of fact, this is where I discovered the life regeneration trick that I learned for this dungeon. Because directly above that door is a pit that leads down to the door. And if you fall down it for whatever reason and you go up, or you press up rather, at the door, you'll be able to re-enter it. Even though I just entered it like not even a minute ago. So because of that accidental discovery, I decided to go ahead and take full advantage of it and get my health to full. This is the only opportunity to get to maximum health that you've got, so you might as well go ahead and take advantage of it, am I right? And of course you want to be very careful with these boulders. You gotta have some really fancy footwork in order to avoid all of them. I kinda show it off near the end. And I get pushed into that hole right there, but thanks to the accidental discovery that I keep mentioning in this video, that's not too much of a problem. I can keep bringing my health up. I don't have anything wrong with that. Do you have anything wrong with that? I hope you don't have anything wrong with that. In all seriousness, no, that is an actual decent pro tip to have coming into the later parts of this game. And I managed to get past the boulders that time, but I dropped down the hole one more time just to fight off some more enemies and finally have full health like I always wanted, which is great. I really needed that, because again, we're going to be facing a boss at the end. And if I take damage at this point, I'm not going to mind. I just got to be able to get past the first hole here, and we should be good. There is another hole that we can drop down, and I don't want to drop down it. Of course, if I drop down it, you know what I'm going to do then. And somehow I managed to luck out, get over that hole despite being hit by all the boulders. And here's some of that fancy footwork that I was talking about. It is possible, you just got to know what you're doing. And when you see those sewer grate-like windows at the wall in the background, you've reached the boss area. This is Grom, your brother, who has been turned against you. You want to hit him with a lot of jump kicks. You don't want to get cornered. Thankfully, I did not get cornered. But if every once in a while, he will jump over you, which is pretty awesome. He does have a multi-jab attack that is pretty easy to avoid as long as you're not next to him. And whenever you see him shoot a fireball out of his hands, you want to jump away immediately, because that fireball is going to cover a little bit of the ground and you don't want to get hit by that. Anyway, we've finally beaten Grom and we've gotten him to come to his senses. And with that, we have finally beaten Chapter 3, and we start the fourth and final chapter with full health. Join me next time when I take on Chapter 4. We are going to finish this final battle once and for all. Until then, this is PrinceWatercress. Take care, stay safe, and thanks for watching!